Our July 17th Mayor and Council meeting to order. This meeting is held in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et sec, and you will notice has been forwarded to the New Jersey Herald and the Daily Record. It was posted on the bulletin board maintained in the municipal building for public announcements. And can I have a roll call?
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Ms. Roberts.
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Here.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Smith will not be here tonight. Mayor Galati.
Here. If you can join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to start off with our proclamations. Just double checking, John Mab, our Eagle Scout. He's eventually going to get here. I know he is. So for those of you that don't know, Sussex County holds a Golden Senior Olympics every year. And they invite the residents of each individual town to participate in the Senior Olympics. It's a really nice event. I attended it this year. They have several categories. They have horseshoe, they have cornhole, they have ladder toss, they have golf putt, they have chicken toss, one of my favorites, and then they have goal kick. Hopakon, the entire team this year placed bronze, which was awesome. It's a great program that was hosted through Vernon this year. They were the host town. And we have several medal winners from Hopakon that I want to acknowledge. Our first winner is Dennis Lynch. You can come on up here. Dennis Lynch is a double medal winner. He is a double silver medal winner for the chicken toss and for horseshoe. So his proclamation is Dennis Lynch. Whereas the Sussex County Division of Senior Services hosted the annual Sussex County Senior Olympics on June 26, 2024. And whereas Dennis Lynch was awarded the silver medal for horseshoe and chicken toss, helping the Hopakon team win the team bronze medal. Whereas the Hopakon seniors are very active in community events and many have participated in previous Senior Olympics. And whereas the Borough of Hopakon is truly fortunate to have these Senior Olympic winners living in our community. Their years of volunteering and caring for others makes them outstanding citizens, and we all thank them for their participation in Team Hopakon for the 2024 Sussex County Senior Olympics. And they are to be emulated in our community. Now therefore I, Marie Galati, Mayor of the Borough of Hopakon, hereby proclaim July 26 as Dennis Lynch Day. Our next proclamation is for Joe Giles. Okay. Whereas the Sussex County Division of Senior Services hosted the annual Sussex County Senior Olympics on June 26, 2024. And whereas Joe Giles was awarded the bronze medal for chicken toss, helping Team Hopakon win the team bronze medal. Whereas the Hopakon seniors are very active in community events and many have participated in previous Senior Olympics. And whereas the Borough of Hopakon is truly fortunate to have these Senior Olympic winners living within our community. Their years of volunteering and caring for others make them outstanding citizens, and we all thank them for their participation in Team Hopakon for the 2024 Sussex County Senior Olympics, and they are to be emulated in our community. Now therefore I, Marie Galati, Mayor of the Borough of Hopakon, hereby proclaim July 27, 2024 as Joe Giles Day. Al Dotnia.
How you doing?
Whereas Sussex County Division of Senior Services hosted the annual Sussex County Senior Olympics on June 26, 2024. And whereas Al Zatmia was awarded the bronze medal for golf putt, helping Team Hopakon win the bronze medal. Whereas Hopakon seniors are very active in community events and many have participated in previous senior Olympics. And whereas the Borough of Hopakon is truly fortunate to have these senior Olympic winners living within our community. Their years of volunteering and caring for others makes them outstanding citizens, and we all thank them for their participation in Team Hopakon for the 2024 Sussex County Senior Olympics, and they are to be emulated in our community. Now, therefore, I, Marie Galati, Mayor of the Borough of Hopakon, hereby proclaim July 23rd, 2024 as Al Zatmia Day. Field approach. When they called Gail's name, she was so excited coming up because she said she's never won an award before. She was so excited, very true. Whereas the Sussex County Division of Senior Services hosted the annual Sussex County Senior Olympics on June 26, 2024. And whereas Gail DeCroce was awarded the bronze medal for women's goal kick, helping Team Hopakon win the team bronze medal. Whereas Hopakon seniors are very active in community events and many have participated in previous Senior Olympics. And whereas the Borough of Hopakon is truly fortunate to have these Senior Olympic winners living within our community. Their years of volunteering and caring for others makes them outstanding citizens, and we all thank them for their participation in Team Hopakon for the 2024 Sussex County Senior Olympics, and they are to be emulated in our community. Now, therefore, I, Marie Galati, Mayor of the Borough of Hopakon, hereby proclaim July 25th as Gail DeCroce Day. Those of you that have already received your proclamation, we are going to ask you to come back up to do a photo at the end, in case you wanted to go line up. Chris Giles. Chris, who is married to Joe Giles, they are a duo in the team. Whereas the Sussex County Division of Senior Services hosted the annual Sussex County Senior Olympics on June 26, 2024. And whereas Chris Giles was awarded the gold medal for women's goal kick, helping Team Hopakon win the team bronze medal. Whereas Hopakon seniors are very active in community events and many have participated in previous Senior Olympics. And whereas the Borough of Hopakon is truly fortunate to have these Senior Olympic winners living within our community. Their years of volunteering and caring for others makes them outstanding citizens, and we all thank them for their participation in Team Hopakon for the 2024 Sussex County Senior Olympics, and they are to be emulated in our community. Now, therefore, I, Marie Galati, Mayor of the Borough of Hopakon, hereby proclaim July 24th, 2024 as Chris Giles Day. Congratulations. Jim Liptak is not here this evening, but I will let you know that his award is for the gold medal for the golf putt, helping Team Hopakon win the team bronze medal. Congratulations to Jim. I think that is our last Olympic winner that we have. Can our participants come up so that we can take a photo of you? Lie down, lie down.
I know.
Stand next to Richie.
Everyone's smiling, everyone's eyes are open. All right, 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's always nice to have positive things happening in Hopakon. We need to recognize them. Moving along, we have our committee reports, and I'm going to start with Councilwoman Johnson because she's right here.
I was not ready. Good evening. I wanted to congratulate our Senior Olympic medalists. For the school board, the next Board of Education meeting is on Monday, July 22nd at the administrative building, starting at 7 p.m. in the board meeting room. Any questions about the referendum should be directed to the board president, Nicole Falcone-Schubert, at nfalcone-schubert@hopatconschools.org, or the superintendent, Jeff Hallenbeck, at jhallenbeck@hopatconschools.org. That's also on the website, hopatconschools.org. Board President Nicole Falcone-Schubert would like to present the details about the referendum at our next council meeting on August 7th, and we'll be reaching out to the mayor to coordinate that. I think it's important to be presented with the facts and be able to answer questions in multiple venues, since everyone's schedule is different and some people are not able to make meetings on Mondays. For recreation, the meeting last week was canceled and the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 13th at 7 p.m. in council chambers. Municipal Alliance, the next meeting is scheduled for August 19th, date and time to be determined. I want to welcome the new interim CFO. Thank you for helping us for however long you were able. I would like to thank Council President Hoferkamp for forwarding the email regarding updates on the infrastructure to the council this past week. You know, we love being kept in the loop, especially when residents approach us and ask and reach out to us with questions. Hopatcon Days last Sunday was wonderful. While the weather held out, I almost adopted a dog and then got divorced, but I decided not to adopt a dog.
But not the dog.
Kyle's watching, he can hear. Hopefully the weather will be perfect for this Saturday for the rain date for Hopatcon Days. Thank you.
Just wanted to take time to thank the senior Olympic team. They did a fantastic job out there on a beautiful, warm, sunny day. And my congratulations to all the medal winners, as well as all the team members out there who did a fantastic job. Thank you so much. And then on another note, I'd just like to mention the fact that yesterday, actually 99 years after it was turned on, the water fountain at the state park was really turned on yesterday, a little after 11 o'clock. And I know our mayor and our DA and some people out here in the audience were there to participate, and only takes a little over about 66, 67 turns of the wheel to make that fountain come back on. So they got it going and it looked very nice. So congratulations to all those that were involved in that endeavor, and it just helps make our town, our park and everything else look very much nice. Thank you so much, Don.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
All righty, I'll pass it down.
Your turn.
Okay, I have an update on the Safely Back Home. We're always still looking for people that have people at home that they take care of that may wander, don't communicate or whatever. We got a wonderful thank you note from one of our families that has been in the program for over a year. I just want to quickly read this to you. This is from the mother. I can't say enough about how wonderful this program has been for our family. We have been getting my son's clothes done by the Safely Back Home program for over a year. My son is nonverbal and autistic. He will not wear anything on his wrists, and he does not comprehend anything close to what an atypical 7-year-old does. It was my worry as he gets older and more independent minded that he will wander off. The worst part is, since he is nonverbal, he cannot tell someone he is lost or what his name is or who his parents are. I haven't had this worry too much until this year's vacation, when my son is starting to explore and became more curious. We went to the beach and of course the arcades, and I turned my head for 1 second, and I am not exaggerating, 1 second. When I turned around, my son was not in view at all. Inside, I was panicking so badly, I told myself to relax and look around for him. Luckily, he was right around the one machine to my right. The reason I told myself to relax was because I knew his shirts were imprinted with the Safely Back Home program. This is honestly a great program, and on top of it, it is free to our family because of the PACOM. We do not have a lot of money. We have a disabled child, and it's very costly. I truly appreciate this program and anyone who donates to it. It gives us parents a peace of mind when 90% of our time, of our minds are going like a ping pong game when it comes to taking our kids out of the house. I would recommend this program to anyone who has a loved one who is a flight risk, old or young. Thank you so much for all we do, Paul, and the people and the supporters of this program. Paul is the initiator of the program. I just want you all to know that, and please pass the information on. If anyone is interested, they can contact me or Brad Hoppercamp for information. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to kick off by wishing Councilwoman Johnson an early happy birthday. It's tomorrow, so please embarrass her by saying happy birthday because she hates being recognized for that. Thank you. I'm sure for those who frequent Route 15, both lanes on the temporary bridge are now open. The traffic is flowing much better, thankfully. Going over into the ambulance squad. The ambulance squad has been growing rapidly, which is fantastic. So we have 4 new members, Alexandra, Ian, Michelle, and Juan. Their next CPR class is August 5th at 7 p.m. and the cost of that class is $45. Jumping over to the fire department. No fire updates from Fire Chief Juan, however, we did get an update from Congressman Keene's office. Our second assistant chief, Bernard Pachkowski, who's in the back right. Bernie, you wanna give us a little wave back there? There you go. Hey, Bernie. Bernie wears a lot of hats for us here in town. He attended the signing of the Fire Grant and Safety Act with the Springfield Fire Department with Congressman Keene. We do have photos of those 2 handsome gentlemen up here, if anybody would like to take a look at them. Thank you for attending, Bernie. Jumping over to the police department, we'd like to congratulate Sergeant Daniel Kern on being named this week's Law Enforcement Hometown Hero by Congressman Tom King Jr.'s office. In the last 2 years, Sergeant Kern was involved in 2 life-saving incidents, and we are very proud of his heroism and his service to our community. For any additional details on the incidents he was involved with, please visit the Hopatcong Police Department Facebook page. You can get all the specifics there. As a reminder, personal, privately owned buoys are not permitted in Lake Hopatcong. So if you have a buoy that is out there that you put yourself, please remove it. We don't want anybody being ticketed by the state police. Jumping into the real estate committee, we are in the process of updating the forms to be a little bit more user-friendly, so you should see that update shortly. Celebration of events, the rescheduled rain date, as Councilwoman Johnson mentioned, is this Saturday, July 20th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Moedic Park. Some dates to remember. Tomorrow night is the Lake Hopatcong Gala, which is always a fantastic time. The Northwood Community Association meeting is set for this Saturday at 10 a.m. The Sussex County Fair begins Friday, August 2nd and goes until Saturday, August 10th. National Night Out is August 8th. Concert in the Park is August 10th. And actually, Miss Hopatcong, Angeline Cardi, will be competing at the Queen of the Fair pageant. That's going to be Saturday, August 3rd. And there's going to be a flyer coming out about that. We're hoping to kind of rally Hopatcong residents to attend and support her. So any Hopatcong Green, Hopatcong Warriors Pride, anything Hopatcong, just wear and attend if you can, just so she feels the full support of the community behind her. So when we have more details with that, we will share it. And that's all I have. Oh, and welcome to our interim CFO, Joe, at the very, very end over there, sitting next to our Auditor Ray.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm a business administrator. I'm going to give a quick report out on our DPW. They're continuing basin repairs, retrofitting, street sweeping, helping with events and event preparation, and their basin cleaning. Report from our water and sewer facilities. Fire hydrant was replaced at the corner of Brooklyn Mountain Road and Durban Avenue. And they're conducting valve exercising and hydrant maintenance. I also want to welcome our auditor here from Nissabacia, Ray Seronelli, sitting down to my right this evening, and thank him for his due diligence on the 2023 audit and what he will be presenting this evening. I also want to welcome our new interim CFO, Joe Sedekase. See him here this evening in person. As was discussed at our last council meeting, Joe comes with a lot of experience from a variety of municipalities and has already gotten us started with helping us strengthen our borough's financial status. We expect that it will help us maintain our status and provide continuity within our finance department as we search for a permanent CFO in the future. Lastly, an item that will come up regarding Mr. Serenelli's 2023 audit is the Hudson Avenue Special Assessment Fee. Because of the unexpected delay sending out these fees, I will ask the council this evening to have a discussion on whether they would like to offer to these property owners the opportunity to pay only the assessment portion of the fees for 1 year on a quarterly basis rather than in one lump sum. I've provided each council member with a breakdown of these fees and what the quarterly payments would equate to. I asked the mayor to revisit this topic during the new business portion of our agenda this evening. Should the council offer this payment plan, Mr. Urson will draft a resolution for the next council meeting on the direction of what the council wants to do. That concludes my report, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to open our meeting up to our auditor, Ray Sarinelli, who is going to go over our audit for the 2023 budget.
So, good evening, everyone. I am Mike Sarnelli, the auditor, for the borough. Tonight, we're going to review the 2023 audit, which you have in front of you. I also provided mayor and council with, a little packet to kind of summarize. I don't want everybody to fall asleep trying to go through, the entire audit, so we'll focus on, the most important issues. So I'm going to start with the financial overview, and then we'll talk about comments and recommendations. So when I do the financial overview, I always like to start with the current fund. This is your general operating fund for the borough. There are several different funds. There's trust funds, water utility fund, capital, sewer utility. So in this case, we're in the current fund, which is your general operating fund where the borough operates out of. And I always talk about fund balance. Fund balance is like retained earnings would be in a business. It's the financial indicator of what's left after all debts would be paid, so your best financial indicator. So in 2023, we started the year with 6.2 million in fund balance, used 2.43 million to balance the budget and generated 2.7 million. So we ended the year with 6.465 million of fund balance, growth of about 265,000. So anytime there's an increase in fund balance, you had a good year, right? So the primary driver in this year in particular was the collection of about $540,000 of land sale proceeds. These are pieces of property that the town owns. That those parcels were sold during the year to the public, and that generated a revenue that wasn't anticipated for the borough. So anytime you have an unanticipated revenue, it's going to help boost your fund balance. When I was here for the budget, we talked about the fund balance is probably has probably reached its peak. So in future years, we're going to look to draw down on that fund balance. It is a little bit high currently for things like the land sale proceeds, unanticipated revenues. Over the last several years, we've gotten a lot of grants that have helped offset expenditures. Those grants are coming to their end, so the fund balance is in particularly high. It's high in most municipalities I work with. So over the next several years, we're going to look to be sustainable with how we draw down on that fund balance and get it to a place where it should be for a town of this size. So any questions on current fund and anything I just went over? Okay. So next I'm going to talk about the grant fund. The grant fund is kind of unique. It's a fund that operates within the current fund. And it's expressly for one purpose. It's for holding your state and federal and even local grants. I guess the rate is finally. So a little bit unique in that it operates within the current fund. Last year, because of the way it operates, there was a little bit of a cash flow issue. Actually, it operated as a deficit. That was corrected this year. There's about $375,000 in that account this year. There's also about $1.88 million of grants available. So we want to make sure that we continue to spend those grants, collect on the receivables that are outstanding, and utilize those funds that are flowing through the town that are not necessarily just opaque on dollars, but grants from outside entities.
How much did you say was available in grants?
1.6.
1.8.
So next, I'm gonna talk about the trust funds. These are funds held for a specific purpose. So you have your animal control fund, other trust funds which operate, open space, unemployment, all those things operating, funds that are collected, held in a trust for a specific purpose to be utilized. Everything that ran through those reserves operated normally. You have a couple of reserves accumulated, 6 in storm recovery. We continue to monitor those, try and keep them for future issues that come up. Particularly the storm recovery trust is important to have on hand. We were able to utilize those funds during COVID, but also, when trees are down and specific instances happen where we have some unexpected expenses, we have a storm recovery reserve. Next, we have a capital fund. These are where all your capital projects are tracked and your debt is accounted for and paid out of. This year, there were 4 new projects started and the debt was paid off according to the amortization schedule, so that's good. One thing that we're gonna wanna continue to monitor in that is the debt service. It's been the plan for the past several years to stay out of long-term bonds and stay into bond anticipation notes. So we wanna make sure we stay on a 10-year cycle with your notes because legally you can only hold a note for 10 years. So we're very close on what we're budgeting for with those notes. And we want to make sure we continue to stay in that 10-year cycle, paying off at least 10% of those notes each year. So that's something we're going to want to continue to monitor. We're in that position now. That's the position we want to stay in. We continue to make sure that we budget for. The last 2 funds I want to talk about are your water and sewer utility. A lot of activity in both funds over the past several years. Operationally, in water utility, the fund balance stopped a downward trend. There was 2 or 3 years where the fund balance had been declining. And in 2023, the fund balance actually grew by $42,000. So it went from $483,000 at the beginning of the year to $525,000 at the end of the year. We want to continue to monitor that, make sure that we're billing enough for the utility to be self-sustaining, and make sure we're continue to pay off the debt. There were a lot of projects undertaken in the last few years, particularly PFAS projects and utilization of the American Rescue Plan money to fund those projects to make sure there's a lot of remediation there. So a lot of projects going on, utilizing the grant funds to try and offset the costs there. But things have really stabilized in 23. We're going to want to continue with that going forward. In sewer, similarly, there was a downward trend on the fund balance for the past several years, and in 2023, things leveled off. There were some large debts that were paid off in 2022, so the budget came more into balance in 2023. Fund balance at the beginning of the year was $2.268 million. It went to $2.320 million. Growth of about 52,000. So same thing as with water, we've gotten to a balanced budget, things seem stable, want to continue to monitor that, make sure we're not, starting another downward trend on the fund balance. In capital, paying down debt, sewer capital, and there was 1 new project started. The biggest thing in the sewer utility fund, which the administrator had alluded to, is the assessment was confirmed in 2023. So this creates a new fund that is specifically utilized for accounting for that assessment. So you have the debt related to it and then the receivable to be collected to pay off the debt related to the project. So creates a lot of unique accounting. It's not a very common thing. I find it pretty exciting. People don't. So a lot of unique accounting, debits and credits on the way cash is pledged, the way the receivable is pledged and collected and pledged to the debt. Very unique process. So something a little bit exciting to report. So those are all of your funds, the financial report. Any questions on any of the financials that I reported on before we talk about the comments and recommendations?
No.
So there are 5 recommendations in the audit. This is what I like to call the audit part of the audit. Everything I went through before is just your financial position, where things, the debits and credits fell out. When we do an audit and we review the procedures that are happening, how they happened, this is where we report on that, things legally, statutorily that we have to look into to make sure are done properly. This is where we report all that. So there are 5 comments and recommendations in the report. I'll read each one and then summarize kind of what happened and what needs to be done to correct each issue. So the first recommendation that is recommended, that adequate segregation of duties is maintained with respect to reporting and treasury functions. This is more a function of us being very strict in our adherence to the accounting standards. So the accounting standard that this recommendation applies to everybody from Hopatcong and Sandyston to Google, Apple, GM, huge companies down to even the smallest of companies. So this isn't something that's happening wrong. It's just that when we look at your finance department and you have one CFO who has 2 people report to her, used to report to her, that's not functioning with adequate segregation of duties. There are several mitigating controls, actually a lot of mitigating controls that the finance department goes through to try and, separate the duties, have levels of oversight. It's just not operating according to the standard. So we'd like to report it to you so that you can have maybe another set of eyes on the reports that come out of the finance office. So there's just another level of control from not only just your administration functioning, but also, you looking at it as well, which most management doesn't look at. So just something to keep in mind, it would be very difficult to actually remedy this issue without hiring several people whose job function really wouldn't be efficient. You would need somebody whose job sole purpose is just to collect receipts, which sounds like a very important job, but a town like Hopatcong, they wouldn't be very busy. There's not a ton of receipts that are running through the business office every day where that person would really need to have a singular person doing that job. So what we try and do is have you balance, meeting the standard, but also being smart, fiscally responsible and not wasting money on having somebody who's not there. So, continue to implement those mitigating controls as best possible. And then also, you as the MayorCouncil can have a second set of eyes on reports every once in a while is a good way to try and remedy the issues, the issue right here. Any questions on that recommendation? So the next recommendation is that it is recommended that greater care be taken when reconciling the payroll bank account with the payroll book balance. And so all of your cash accounts, are reconciled on a monthly basis, which very similarly to reconcile your own checking account, for your home, we want to see that, there is a bank balance and then there's a checkbook balance basically, where, maybe there's some things that are recorded, like deposits are recorded on the 30th of the month that don't actually hit the bank until the following. So we want to see a reconciliation of, outstanding checks and deposits in transit. All those things should reconcile from book to bank. And when we looked at the bank reconciliation, it was off by about $1,500. Not a big amount, nothing that I'm really overly concerned about, but it should balance to the penny on a monthly basis. So, small issue, we would need to make sure that it's looked into, remedied on why why it's not balancing. At the end of the day, $1,500 doesn't sound like a lot, but when we find something like that, we report on it because it should balance to the penny every month. Any questions on that? The next one is a little bit interesting. So it is recommended that the COVID-19 Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund annual project and expenditure report only include purchase orders dated within the period covered. So this is the American Rescue Plan funds that were given out by the federal government. And when the federal government gives that money, they want to see reports on how that money is being spent. So in this particular case, $1.9 trillion was given out. So they created a special website for, municipalities, counties, anybody who received the money to report how they're spending that money. So in this case, the reports, you could elect how the funds were reported as expended. It could be on a cash basis or on an encumbrance basis. So what was reported was not reported on a cash basis, which it should have been reported on a cash basis. So when all is said and done, you were given a specific allotment of money, you're going to spend all that money. So everything will end up being reported in accordance with how it should have been reported. But on a year, the funds were spent over a period of 3 years. And on a yearly basis, the encumbrances were reported when they should have been reported on a cash basis. So it all sounds very convoluted, but when we look at what was reported to the federal government versus what was actually paid in cash, they don't agree. We're given a very specific set of instructions on how to audit these funds. In this particular case, you qualified for a single audit where we not only do our regular audit, but we also look specifically at the ARP money and how it was spent. So a lot of additional work done to make sure that just the COVID money was spent the way it was supposed to be spent. It was all spent the way it was supposed to be spent. It wasn't reported to the government in the way it was supposed to be reported to the government. In total, it will be at the end, just on a yearly basis, it wasn't. Did everybody follow that? Kind of convoluted.
So what you're saying, Ray, is that because it wasn't necessarily, I'll use the word reported correctly, it will be fixed by the end of
By the end of
2024,
Yes.
what you're saying.
Because the project will fully be expended, so your full allotment will be reported as expended. And everything will reconcile appropriately.
Okay,
It's just that it wasn't fully expended in year one, and what was reported was both the cash basis and encumbrance, which is basically like an accounts payable, but it should have just been reported cash basis. So in order for us to tie out, we couldn't tie out. The hard part about it is that because it was reported wrong the first year, it was almost impossible to correct in the second year, because now you've reported the encumbrances. You can't report it on a cash basis, because then you wouldn't be reporting everything correctly. So it's a little bit confusing. I'll say the federal government's reporting format isn't exactly the most user-friendly as well. So, you know, you got a couple of things working against you, but it will all be reported correctly.
so just to clarify, it's 2 years of reporting that you're talking about, and this will be the third is 2024.
The third will be 2024, which was, you know, everything will be expected.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. The last one not the last one, the next one is what we've talked about already. It is recommended that the properties included in confirmed assessments be billed in a timely manner. So the assessments, like I said, is a little bit of a complicated process, both accounting and legally. There's a number of hoops to jump through to make sure all the i's are dotted and t's crossed. So what happened is you have a project, there's debt issued related to the project, and then the project is completed and confirmed. So now you have debt associated with the project and you know what the costs are that need to be received on the project. So once the assessment is confirmed, the properties need to be billed so that the funds can be collected, so that the payments on the debt can be made on the debt utilized to fund the project. So the project was confirmed, but the assessments haven't been received yet. Sounds like there's already some corrective action happening on that issue we're going to discuss tonight. So that's a good thing. We want to make sure that we start collecting the money so that we can utilize those funds to pay for the debt that's associated with the project. So things are moving forward. They didn't quite move forward quickly enough when, you know, the project's confirmed in the fall. By December 31st, nothing's been collected on those projects. We're making debt payments on those projects. It creates issues budget-wise of how we need to fund, you know, those debt payments. So we want to start making collections so we can make our debt payments, you know, legally and statutorily.
I'm sorry, you said in the fall, it was confirmed in the fall? Just,
September, I believe.
okay,
I think that's when the committee met the last time and certified it.
Yeah, there's a legal process where there's a confirmation committee established and they basically render their final ruling, and then there's a resolution adopted by council that says, okay, this is what we're going to collect in order to pay back our debt on the assessment, the project.
And that's what the administrator is asking us this evening.
To move forward with that process and start moving forward with the bills and having a payment plan and allowing the residents who are gonna pay a little bit of say in how and what they pay.
Just a quick question. So when we were going through the budget, can you remind me, did we have that allocated as a line item in terms of anticipated revenue that we were already? Well, we're not taking it in, obviously, but was that already part of the budget?
So it's part of the budget. It's its own separate budget, actually, and you budget the appropriation. It has to be obviously, right, revenue versus appropriation. The appropriation that's budgeted is the debt payment on the it's a loan done through the state of New Jersey, iBank it's called. So there's an amortization schedule and there's a payment that must be made according to that amortization schedule. So that's what's budgeted as an expense. And then the revenue budgeted in this budget is actually an appropriation from the operating. So really you have the operating portion of the budget funding the expense of this specific assessment until there's enough cash collected from the billing of the assessment to make those payments. Which is why you want to start collecting those assessments so you have the cash available.
Right, okay.
The last recommendation is recommended that greater care be taken when calculating employee health benefit contributions. So the employee health benefit contribution is fairly complicated. It's known as Chapter 78. It was a law adopted several years ago. There is a percentage of premium that is supposed to be collected based on a person. The percentage is based off of a person's salary. And that percentage is applied to the premium. And then the individual has a withholding from their pay based on that percentage. The percentage changes as a person's salary increases. So what we found was there were a few employees where their salary changed enough that they were put into a different tier of percentage. So let's say if they were paying 25%, their salary increased, now they should be paying 30%. For a period of time, they were only still paying the 25% of their premium. So an issue where you're not abiding by state statute. So, we have a recommendation that finance office review all of your employees to make sure that the correct percentage for each employee is being withheld of their premiums. And then that amount is then, turned over to the borough for them to make their payments on the health benefits. Any questions? So those are all the recommendations. Obviously a few issues, I think, nothing that can't be fixed here, nothing really earth shattering that is dramatically wrong. Some things that definitely I want to see corrected. And if I don't see corrected, then you have an issue, something's really a problem. But other than the adequate segregation of duties, there's no repeat comments and recommendations from the 2022 audit. So, as we find things, they are being corrected by the administration. I think you have some new people involved this year. There's going to be some corrective action, and they're going to work through the issues that are in the audit. So, that's my report. Unless you have any further questions.
I have a question.
I do too.
Number 5, the health benefits. That's something that we're going to do internally to double check all of the employees to make sure that that's being deducted correctly. Is that something that we as a board collaboratively have to ask someone like yourself to do, or is that something that our new CFO?
It's really up to you how you decide you want to do it. It obviously you have a lot of employees to go through all of them is a fairly complicated process to ensure everybody's being paid correctly. You could have somebody like me do it. There would be an expense to that. You could have your CFO do it. I would imagine it's, he's on an interim basis. It might take him a little bit of time to get through all that. It's up to you on how quickly you want it resolved. If it were someone like me, we could have it done fairly quickly. There's an expense to it. You have Joe do it, it's not an expense, but
But you're recommending it all be checked, because I,
it all needs to be checked to make sure everything's correct.
thank you.
Do you have a total amount owed for the sewer assessment project? Because I'm looking at I see the option fee email here from the administrator, but there's no total fund as to what we're owed.
I can tell you, I think it's mid 300s.
Have, 324,878.
Right, so as of December 31st, it's 335,030. That's what
Okay.
it was in the audit. You know, if there's some collections that have happened in the meantime, but 335,030, it's on, in the packet I gave you and in the audit, it's on Schedule E,
And that's just the assessment. That's just the assessment.
just the assessment.
Got it. That's without the quarterly payments. Understood. For the hookup fee.
Who puts you talked about, employees, that were previously kicking in 25% to their health benefits. It went up to 30. Did that go on for a long time? And what does that equate to in dollars?
So we utilize testing, so we tested several people, two of them had an issue. So it could be a larger number of people. Once we figure out there's an issue, we report on it. We don't go into dollar value. That would be more like a forensic type audit where we're looking at a specific issue. To put a dollar value on it, the people that we found, it was only incorrect for 3 months. So, if it were 15, 20, 30 people over 3 months, it could be a substantial amount of money, but I would say not something relative to the size of your operation that would be detrimental to the cause. Like if it's $30,000 or $40,000, that sounds like a big number. You have an $18.5 million budget. It's not as consequential. But yes, all taxpayer funds are important. It could be something like that, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
Okay, thank you.
Last question. On page 19 of your recommendations, there's a salary adjustment recommendation.
So
Can
something.
you clarify that?
Yeah, sure. So that's actually a management suggestion, a little bit different from a recommendation. And I'll talk about that for a second. So at the top of page 19, you'll see suggestions to management. So there's two levels of issues that we find. One would be a comment and recommendation. There's a problem here. We have a recommendation, how to fix it. A suggestion to management is something's happening not quite right or not efficient, or actually two of the suggestions that we have that don't even relate specifically to your operation. They're more things that we just want management to be aware of. I don't always review those at a public meeting because they don't go on the last page, which is most important, but there's still issues that management has been made aware of that they're going to try and correct. So, I guess since you brought them up, we'll go through all of them. So actually, they start on the bottom of page 18, and we have a suggestion to management about fixed asset management and reporting. In 2023, the administration switched how their fixed assets were reported on. And the accounting, it really wasn't done until we came in for audit, which is not timely to December 31st when it should be done. So we just want to make sure that when those fixed assets are being purchased, there should be a separate accounting for them to make sure they're recorded as assets in your inventory system. So while we were able to come up with a number, it really wasn't done particularly efficiently. So just something to be aware of for management, hey, you know, we understand you took care of this, but it should be done in a more timely basis. The next one we kind of touched on is grants receivable and appropriated. There's a number of grants outstanding that are still haven't been collected and haven't been spent. So, you know, nothing statutorily non-compliant, but I mean, you want to make sure you're utilizing dollars from outside of OPACON as efficiently as possible and make sure you're collecting on them. A lot of what a lot of especially federal grants are done on a reimbursement basis. So you have to put out the cash, you submit, and then you have to collect on those. Well, if you put out the cash in 2021 and collected by 2023, not very efficient. You're out on your cash flow. So want to make sure those grants are being received and also that you're expending grants that you're awarded. If you're awarded a grant for 2021, it shouldn't be 2023 and it hasn't been spent yet.
Are there a lot of those?
Not a lot, but big ones.
Can the council be provided a list, I guess, of what?
There is a list in the audit, so.
Which
Page?
which page of this bad boy?
Monstrosity.
So the receivables are on schedule A10, which is about halfway through the book.
Oh, look at that.
So those are all the grants that are outstanding receivable. You know, I would say that, you know, the biggest one is there is an $800,000 EPA regional water static drinking water grant that has not been collected, but also has not been spent. So that's actually a good thing. You haven't spent the money, so you're not out on any cash flow items. But that, we want to follow through on that and make sure that that those funds are spent and received. So on the spending side, a few pages further on is Schedule A13, and those are your appropriated grant reserves. Without getting too technical, those are your spendable grants that have been run through the budget and are available to be spent. And so that's where we talked about the 1.8 million at the beginning of the presentation. You know, obviously the 800,000 is a huge chunk of that 1.8 million. There's a number of other grants out there that are still ready to be spent. A lot of them are your DOT grants. That's not surprising. That's pretty normal function of how DOT grants work. Usually get awarded in 1 year, spent in the next year, collected the year after that. So that's a pretty normal process, but you know, you got a lot of them out there. So we want to continue to make sure that they're continuing to move through the process.
So just so I know, this balance was what was in there. Expended is what we spent of those and what's
just
left.
in this year, not spent in total, spent in 2023. The expended column.
Just in 2023.
Yeah.
But then there's the balance of what's left on those, taking into consideration the years before that we've expended
That's
on
the
those.
total grant, what you have left available to spend.
Got it, understood. Thank you.
The next two suggestions are really a function of the accounting world. So we have Government Accounting Standards Board Statement 101. This is exciting stuff. You guys should be paying attention. The statement is on compensated absences. Basically, what is listed there is that there's going to be a change in the way that the audit is presented. So we like to put that in there for people who particularly pay attention to the audit. The way the compensated absences are reported is going to change. So there's a change in standards. We like to make sure everybody's aware of it because of course, everybody stays on top of government accounting standards. I know. The next one is your ARP money. We put this in all of our reports because a lot of people have drugged their feet on the rescue plan money. And you know, having money sometimes is just as big a problem as not having money. And you get a large sum of money and people are like, well, we should spend it on this, we should spend it on that, we should spend it on this. you know, a lot of decisions were made with your ARP money, a lot of it went into the water utility to remedy a lot of the issues you had there. So most of that, your money is spent, so not really an important suggestion to pack on per se, but I would say certainly in New Jersey and probably across the country, a lot of people drug their feet on that, and that money needs to be spent by the end of this year. So a lot of people need to get in gear and spend that money, so we put it in all of our reports this year. Now getting to the question that you asked is the last one, is on salary adjustments. So this is an area where, you know, you have accounting happen, but you also have you know, statutory, how, you know, that money is being spent. So you have me, an auditor, making an interpretation on your administrative code and contracts and resolutions and ordinances. And so what happened in 2023 is that some raises were given out by administrator memo and not via board resolution. My interpretation of your administrative code is that that was an allowable process, albeit not very, you know, clear, transparent. So that was my suggestion, is that it be more transparent, everything be done by resolution. That was my interpretation at the time of the audit. Discussions with the board attorney have led me to believe that, you know, all salary raises should be done via resolution of the board. So maybe it should have been a recommendation. My interpretation of a legal standard at the time, I'll say I'm not an attorney, I'm an auditor. I made my best decision at the time. So either way, appears in the report, management is aware of it, council's aware of it, going to be remedied. So still something that's gonna be eventuate change within the borough. So not a recommendation in this report, but something that's gonna be corrected moving forward. Is there more recommendation or more suggestions?
No, I guess not.
So those are all the suggestions.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Sarinelli? Looks like no, Ray.
Great. Appreciate working with everybody here. You know, I've only worked with Joe and Neil for a short time now. They both seem to try to move the town forward. So appreciate working with you. I look forward.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ray. That was enlightening. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is open to the public. You just need to come forward, state your name. You can discuss anything and everything that's on the agenda and off the agenda. Any takers? I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. I start now, right?
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank you for having the speaker so that we can actually hear you and what's going on. Secondly, are we caught up with the collecting from the solar field
Yes,
finally?
yes.
Good. And are you still looking into the 2 employees who received the raises last year without the resolution and without transparency?
I can tell you that obviously we don't discuss personnel, but this is an audit we just discussed. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Frank Pollara. Right over here on Williams Trail and loving Pacon since 2016, moving over here. One thing I learned about after the audit, I saw it looked like my taxes were going to go up around $5,000 this year until I got some clarification on what our tax rate would be. So I would like to know, what will our tax rate be to ensure that I'm not gonna be paying an extra $500-600 a month in my taxes? Do you have any information on that?
No, not as of yet. We don't have anything from the county as of yet.
Do we have an ETA on when we will?
They will get it to us as quickly as they can. They're not a force to push. We'll know eventually.
If they were targeting the end of August, approximate, they don't have a date. Our tax collector's office put a memo out on the Borough back on
Okay,
page and Facebook as well.
okay. Thank you.
Basically, what the memo says is that we have an approximation of the bills being mailed out possibly around July 26th to July 28th. So hopefully we have an answer by then, because that was the guess that the tax collector gave to us. And then, of course, there's the 25-day grace period that goes with that, instead of it just being due August 1st.
Okay, so I don't hold it to a particular deadline date, but
It should be soon.
Ballpark.
It should be soon, because taxes normally are due August 1st. So,
I shut the mic off. Thank you. Thank you.
okay. Anyone else? I saw someone getting up.
Sitting
Just
front,
stay standing.
sitting up front.
Good evening. I just have a couple of questions. I've been in touch with the town a couple of times. I'm trying to do an addition on a property on Monroe Trail.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Sharon Lester Hogan. My husband is Robert Hogan. His family has owned that house probably over 50 years. So what we want to do is put an extension over existing foundation. Not extra bedrooms, not extra bathrooms. Mr. Is it Donegan from zoning? He's been very helpful, but he really doesn't have information to give us. What my concern is, we're told to contact the health department, which told us we had to have the septic assessment, which is, we don't have a problem with that. However, we cannot be given information that if we end up putting a septic in on Monroe Trail, I can put a golf ball to the sewer access on either side of my house, downhill. And yet nobody can tell me if we spend what I hear is approximately $30,000+ on a new septic system. If the town comes in a year or two later with finally a sewer pipe on Monroe Trail, which we were told for years, oh, it's ledge. Now we're told it's capacity. But nobody can tell us, yes, if you put in a $30,000 system and we come in 2 years from now with a sewer pipe, you don't have to hook up, or you just spent $30,000 for the fun of it. I've had people in town tell me, oh, don't worry, it won't happen for at least 5 to 10 years. I've been told, well, it's good for the lake. I've been told, I can go on, yet I really still don't have an answer. If I spend $30,000+ and put in a septic and the sewer pipe comes in on Monroe Trail 2 years from now, what happens to me? Do I just then get to hook, have that under my property, a new septic system, and then have to hook up to sewers? I have no problem putting in a septic system if I need it, but I think I should have some answers from someone about what's in the future of spending that kind of money. That's my, thank you. Thank you.
So I will tell you, there is no plan to put a sewer line on Monroe Trail within the next 2 years.
Anywhere?
As of right now, there are no discussions to put an additional sewer line anywhere. The Hudson Ave project that was actually just done a year ago, 2 years ago, was the most recent sewer project that we had done in the last several years. I would probably say somewhere between 5 to 7 years. That's the first project that we had. There is a very, I feel like I can't see it. There is a very strong chance that we are very close to our capacity. In the conversations that I've had with our engineer, we do talk about if we are going to extend our sewer system, there's a possibility we might have to increase our capacity somehow within the MSA. So I would love to, if you can leave me your name and number, I will get you a definite answer from our engineer. But the unfortunate thing is, just like everyone who has hooked up to sewers here since 2003, if the sewer line does come down your street, whether it's a new septic or an old septic, everybody had to hook into it. So
That's
it's just what they decided when they decided the project, so it would continue because it's just what's been happening. But if you leave me your name and number, I'd be more than happy to get an answer from the engineer for you.
In
Yeah,
in the,
thank
yeah, in the.
It just changed. No? Yes,
In the
no?
first phase, I know that there, because I'm in the first phase. So in the first phase of the sewers, when they came down, the county came in and inspected the septics. And they gave people 5 years to hook up. But you had to be paying in if your sewer is, if the sewer is available, you have to be paying into the sewer, into the utility anyway. But I think the county gave, I think it was a max of 5 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's right. But can I add one thing, Mayor? You really, the town can give you a certain amount of advice, but this council could have no plans in the next year or 2 or 3 to extend the sewer system. But a council 5 or 10 years from now, no one can predict that.
Exactly.
The most important thing for you is to talk to a qualified engineer. Because my guess is one of 2 things. You may have an opportunity to hook up to the sewer if you wanted. Or you might be outside of the sewer service area, which would be a significant limitation in any sewer project in the future. But you really need to speak to an engineer, a consulting engineer who can give you that advice.
I have to find an engineer to tell me if my house is outside the sewer underground.
If you can figure it out on your own, you can, but I would definitely encourage you to speak to an engineer about your alternatives.
But I mean, to ask an engineer, I just want to make sure I get this right, ask an engineer to see if my home is outside of the sewer.
Service area.
Service area, which means I would never be getting,
It means it's a significant hurdle. It's a big hurdle at the state level.
okay, the town doesn't have an engineer. who
town-
knows it's-
The town engineer would probably know as well.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, my name's Matthew Costa, I live over on Pocono Trail. I have just a concern, it's totally different than anybody else's concern, but more recently, the burgeoning deer population in this town. There is a lot of people feeding. I don't know if the town or the council has any plans to impose a feeding ban in this town. What was that?
There is one.
I called the animal control officer, she told me there isn't one. I also called the state. Fishing and Wildlife, they said there's no law against it currently.
I'm gonna pull
So
it up
I'm
for you,
looking
hold
for
on.
clarification on that. I just recently lost a dog to leptospirosis due to, anybody knows what leptospirosis is? Leptospirosis. I have a very young dog that died from kidney failure. It's also transmissible to humans. My wife has had ehrlichiosis, which is another type of tick-borne disease. I have myself been treated for Lyme disease. I think it's a health hazard. It also brings in rats. And I have a lot of, when my veterinarian asked me, do you live in the woods? I said, no, I live in a neighborhood. And he's like, well, that's usually where this is picked up. And I said, he goes, do you have a lot of wildlife in your neighborhood? I said, I have a hell of a lot of wildlife in my neighborhood. So I have foxes, raccoons. I mean, I understand everybody loves animals. I love watching deer just as much as anybody else. Seeing 12 of them laying in my backyard in the evening time, it's a little too much. You know, years ago, when I first moved into my house, I saw maybe 1 or 2 passing through. Now, every evening, I watch them from my deck go into my neighbor's yard, who is actively putting several piles of feed out because they're actually fighting over feed.
It's, just so you know, it's 100-19 is the,
Dash 19.
is the ordinance prohibiting
So
feeding
how
deer.
do we get that enforced?
Well-
I've already called the animal control officer. Who enforces that? Police or animal control?
Also 16730.
Animal control.
Animal control?
Yeah.
Okay,
On our street, a man was actively putting piles out and 3 neighbors called and he was cited and given a ticket. And he stopped. Now he started again. But you have to be diligent.
So is do you know if the ticket goes up in price every time they get another ticket?
I don't know that, but you have to, it's studying it, right?
Maybe if it costs more money for the ticket than it costs to buy a bag of corn, we might have an impact. Bag of corn is about $15, so maybe it needs to be more substantial the second time, just a thought. What does the town have also when it comes to it controlling the deer population? Years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we had the Deer Management Task Force. They put things into play. Now it seems like we have more deer than ever before. So what is the council doing or considering, if they are, to do about that? Any thoughts?
Yes. Does
I
the
do.
resolution have to be passed on to allow for hunting on like municipal property or so, or just?
We already have hunting on municipal property. I can tell you that, we did receive a grant this year for, deer management. So we have not received the dollars for that, but that will help us to evaluate what the situation is here, where they are, what's going on, what's happening. Once we have that empirical data, then we can always launch ourselves into, and we discussed this in the past, the wildlife management group, where we can talk about the deer population and updating the ordinances and updating the fees and updating those types of schedules. Because the deer population, as we all know, is a little out of control. Because they do come through the neighborhoods, they do cross the roads, they sit at the bus stops with the kids. They sit at the bus stop at my house with the kids, and then the kids give them fruit every day.
I'm not saying they don't belong here, I just think should have less.
No, I agree. I agree, and I understand your concerns, and I definitely wrote this down. We will definitely reach out for animal control, and we'll definitely start pulling some of these to take a better look at it.
Is the council aware that there is archery hunting allowed within, is there any ordinance in the town against hunting within city town
I
limits?
think you have to have 400 feet.
No, so
in.
it's up to the council. Sometimes in the past, the council has authorized bow and bow hunting on municipal property and issued permits.
So that was in the past, there's no, now that's for the town properties, municipal properties that are
Town
on
property.
private property.
Private property isn't regulated by the town, it's
Right.
regulated by fish and game regulations.
Right,
Right, so the only thing the town can control is hunting on municipal property.
Right, so I'm talking about specifically private property right now. So currently the law, for the conservation officer I spoke to, plus it's also available in the Fish and Wildlife Digest, it's 150 feet from a house or an occupied dwelling. So there are portions even on my own property, where I can find 150 feet between my neighbors to hunt deer in my backyard. So I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a town ordinance where you were not allowed to hunt in town limits, because that's what I was told.
So the ordinance, the regulations that you're citing, the fish and game regulations are the regulations that apply to private property. The town, even if they wanted to, they're not allowed to make regulations in that regard because the state already has.
Right.
So that the town can only regulate hunting on
So all
publicly
I
owned
need
land.
is permission from my neighbors.
Correct.
I think you need a hunting license too.
I already have them.
All right, you're all set.
Anyone else?
Hello, Michelle Franco McCarroll Windsor. I just have a quick question. Who handles, when you're driving down the street, you're trying to make a turn onto a road and there's just bushes or trees on private property, town property that are out of control, making it unsafe to make the turn, where, just out of my street alone, I've almost gotten hit this week alone, like 20 times, you can't see. Who handles that?
That would actually be the zoning officer. What, you're in the 100, 200, 300 block?
I'm in the 300 and it's Windsor to Broadway, and then at the end of Broadway, there's bushes, like you can't see. It's many roads in this town, and I know that it's a big task. But I'm willing to work with whoever I need to work with to report problematic areas, because somebody is gonna get killed one day.
No, I agree. We actually just started working on this because we are just trying to figure out exactly the best way to do it. whether or not we're going to just, have the zoning officer ask in a friendly way, or whether or not we're going to start out aggressive. We actually literally just started talking about this, when was our meeting with the engineer? Like a week ago. We just literally started, so because we started getting a lot of complaints in specific areas
And
about this.
one of them is they just put a new crosswalk in on the end of Broadway to crossing over Brooklyn Mountains. They put in a crosswalk for the students because there's a house at the corner you can't see when you're trying to make
Yes.
a right-hand turn.
Yes,
So the bus, children have almost been run
Yes.
over, so.
we're hoping to have it finished and completed by the end of the summer.
Awesome.
Have you reached out to the
Absolutely.
county and had them do that too? I know there's a lot of county roads in
Mhm.
Brooklyn Bush.
So, I mean, if I can start making a list and turning it in. if
I'd
that's
be more than
helpful.
happy, you can send them to me. I'd be more than happy to.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all.
Anyone else? Thank you, John.
I'm John Ferguson, lifelong resident of Opakon since 1955. Mostly because surrounding towns won't allow me out of Opakon. But I want to say first, thank you very much to the town and council, because we're now finally going to have a competitive internet service provider in town. They just were there today running the wires for the new fiber optic company. That apparently they said within a few months, we'll now have a competitor to Optimum, so you're just not stuck with that. So thank you guys for approving that, because that's gonna be a good change for the town. You didn't know? Also, I just want to bring up one thing, to take into consideration. We have a lot of little orphan segments of roads around the town that have just become overlooked for years. Roads where neighboring roads have been paved like 3 or 4 times in the last 20 years, but these little segments have not been touched. For example, Helen Street is like 200 yards of road that ends at Flora and intersects Unger, but the poor thing hasn't been paved since the 80s. And now it's just crumbled asphalt, but there's a bunch of them around town. Anybody who's driven in the hills without GPS, you can't get out of the hills. So, for example, I lived here my whole life and I thought Flora ended at the county road. I didn't know that it continued across that little, and then it does a right angle turn and goes up that big hill, Center Street, and ends on the other side of
Yes.
Center. Because all these roads existed on paper before houses were built, and there was
Yes.
only bungalows, and houses never got built, so you never had the roads finished. So I don't know whether the mapping of the general plan for repaving is based on people coming and saying, hey, my road needs repaved, or whether you have a master plan, but I think some of these little segments somehow are falling through the cracks, and that's just one example. Sure, there's others around, so I just was hoping if somebody has some free time, they can tour around and update the maps and say, hey, we need to make sure these get paved, because people are, few neighbors on Helen or saying, but we pay our taxes, I feel for them because the road is in that bad shape, and I've seen a few other walk to the senior center on a lot of days to hiking through the woods and stuff, and you get to see stuff firsthand that you never saw in the town. So you guys have a lot to consider and do, but just if somebody could add that as a checkbox on the thing to do, just look for some of the segments that have not been paved in quite a long time. And last and final thing, can somebody please consider putting that intersection of Durban and Brooklyn Mountain at the 4-way stop? I've been dealing with that my whole life, and it's so terrible that.
We actually have them doing a traffic study on
The
that
sight
right now.
lines are so terrible, especially coming in one direction, like she was talking. It's very unsafe, and it's a major thoroughfare for the buses and the kids. And those flashing red stop signs, they did wonder if anybody remembers Sparta Stanhope Road and the county road there, they made that 4-way stop, and it's remarkable. It's safe. I don't think they've had anything like they used to have in accidents.
Yes, we actually just had this conversation at the engineering meeting about having a traffic study done there for the 4-way stop, so we seem to be on the same
If you
page.
accidentally put up 2 stop signs, just wait till the state tells you to take them out.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Anyone else have a question? Is your hand up, Dwayne? Motion to bring it back,
Bring it back.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Moving right along. Number 9, approval of the minutes, approval of the July 3rd, 2024 regular minutes. Everyone is eligible. I have a motion
So made.
Second.
and a roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson. Yes. Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez
Yes.
and Ms. Smith.
Yes.
We have no correspondence this evening. Resolution 2024-105, the bill list. Can I have a motion?
So made.
Second.
If anyone has anything they'd like to remove from the bill list, please indicate.
Keeping it easy.
I have a question about 2401-237, Greg Schuster. I thought we were finished with that. Is this? He's gone.
No, you still have.
There's still projects that Greg is working on. One of the main ones is the Optimum Cable franchise. That's just something it would take too long to catch Neil up to speed. So there's some things that Greg is still involved in here, yes.
Any other questions? Is that, Mayor, is that going to, how much longer is that going to continue? As far as until, Neil takes over?
Everything from the administrator perspective, other than some of the major deals that Greg has been involved since February with, to catch Neil up, it would be very difficult because we've already been negotiating. It shouldn't be very long. Greg doesn't want to stay here any longer. Anyway.
Period.
Very good.
Let's do a little quick exit.
Roll call.
And roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson. Yes. Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolutions 2024-106, authorization for NJDOT grant application for Vermont and Dartmouth Trail.
So made.
Second.
And roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson. Yes. Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2024-107, authorization for NJDOT grant application for DuPont Ave.
So made.
Second.
And a roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson. Yes. Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. 2024-108, certification of the 2023 audit. Can I have a motion?
So made.
Second.
Discussion, just a quick question, I'm sorry. Of all the recommendations, will we be notified when each recommendation has been satisfied?
Yes. Roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson. Yes. Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez, it would be a mitigation plan that would be implemented, so you'll hear the end result of all of those. Ordinances, introduction, ordinance 13-2024, funding for various capital improvements, capital ordinance providing for various capital improvements, buying in the borough of Hopatcon in the county of Sussex, state of New Jersey, appropriating $939,050. Therefore, $887,100 from the general capital fund balance, $473,950 from the general capital improvement fund, $30,000 from the water capital fund, and $248,000 from the sewer capital fund to pay for the cost thereof.
And second, just discussion, this was the one that had to be reintroduced.
Yes, we actually have.
We had to start all over again?
We have to start all over again because we need to reintroduce, because when we finalized this, we did not have a majority. At that meeting, we were missing 3 council people. So Dave, just so you know, this is all of what we discussed already. I knew you were gonna ask. It's okay.
And there were only 3.
But yes, it's what we discussed already. We have a motion in a second.
Yes.
Roll call.
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Okay. We have no final hearings. Old business? Anybody have any old business? Okay, moving along, new business. The CFO's report of the bond anticipation note sale. That is in the packet. Yeah, just for information. Are there any questions? Not seeing any. The zoning officer's report for May 2024. Can I have a motion to accept?
So made.
Second.
And roll call?
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
And C, we have the tax collector's report for June of 2024. Can I have a motion for that?
So made.
Second.
And a roll call?
Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
And we've added D, which is the Hudson Ave sewer extension. Are we looking to have a discussion this evening? Do you want to take some time to think about it until the next meeting? Or do you have a direction?
I can move forward with it, depending on how everybody else feels about it. Have no problem with quarterly payments though.
Quarterly payments for the year?
So I just have a question about, I have,
Sure.
so this plan that we're looking at on the quarterly basis, right?
Mhm.
Because these were the options we were given, either quarterly or one shot.
Right.
Now. I only have quarterly. Is that wrong? A single one-year plan is that quarterly.
Right, that, the amount of the assessment's 10,152.45 for the typical single-family
So
home.
that would be the one-time payment, that would be the quarterly payment
Correct.
for the multifamily, okay.
Yes, it's initially, it was initially the one payment, but because of the delay that we've had, excuse me, we're allowing the option to exist to the council if they choose to break it up into the quarters.
Okay, and then the hookup fee, do we know how many of them have hooked up?
17.
Because I only have that 12 of them are actually paying. In my records, 12 of the 35 are paying. 12 of the 35 are paying. Give me a second. 12 of the 35 are paying according to my records. I don't have any, so if they're paying, does that mean they're hooked up? Not necessarily, right?
I don't know the answer.
Okay, that's fine.
Right, 17 are hooked up. I got that information from the tax collector. Which ones are paying the user fee? You would think it would be all the ones who are hooked up, but if not, I would assume it's a subset of the ones that are hooked up.
Okay, because
But they should all be paying a user fee.
Okay, so only 12, so now what happens to their user fee going from there? Their user fee would actually be on top of that quarterly payment, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know that.
Correct. We'll have more information as this comes along. Also, as an update. So Bradley, do you want to make that motion?
I can make that motion that we go to have John Urson, you're gonna create a resolution to that effect?
Yeah, because this affects an assessment that's billed through the tax collector's office, it should be documented in a resolution. So if the majority of the council indicates that they're in favor of that, we would prepare a resolution and we would put it on the next agenda so it can be properly on the agenda and properly voted on.
And so when we can't start collecting this until the resolution passes.
Well, so there's notices that need to go out, but if you're going at your next meeting, if it's likely that you're gonna make it a quarterly payment, then the notices should be held so the accurate information goes. If you decide not to make it quarterly, the notices are ready to go.
If you're going to accept the one-time payment, the notices are ready to go. If you're going to alter the payment schedule to a quarterly schedule, then we would have to have the notices go into effect after the next meeting,
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of money.
I wouldn't be like,
I wouldn't be able to do it.
So let's do it.
Yeah.
quarterly.
I'll make a motion to go with the quarterly payments.
I'll second it.
Second, all kinds of seconds.
Yeah.
So because this wasn't on the agenda, I didn't want you voting on something that
Oh.
has to do with money. So the motion is to direct me to put the resolution on the next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what I
That's
thought it
what
was,
I thought.
right?
Okay.
We'll pass it on later. It's just.
Do you want to roll this?
No, you can just do it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I will move ahead. Okay. Mayor's comments.
Second.
Yes, we're gonna do second public. I'm just trying to get myself ready. So can I have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is open to the public again for a second public portion. You have up to 5 minutes to speak about something that's on the agenda or off the agenda. You do need to come up and say your name though. Any takers?
Michelle, I'm Carol Windsor Ave. I just have another question. Summer is obviously here. We have a lot of solicitors going door to door. We don't know who's who. I know that they have to come in, they have to register, but I would like some kind of other protocol and like a blast to go out, like, hey, this company's coming around, beware, because I personally do not answer my door if I don't know, like, because, right, friends and family don't knock, they don't ring my doorbell. So, some of these people are very aggressive, most of the time, if 99%, they're men coming to the door, aggressively knocking, ringing doorbells, peeking in windows. A lot of them don't have identification, and I think I call the police and report it, but, police is, for emergencies. That's not necessarily an emergency, so I feel like we're taking time away from them. But, I'm asking if there's a way to be, more open about who's coming around. Like, I understand they register, they get a permit, but they should be checking in. Hey, I'm here. Here's my, registration, whatever their permit, we're going door to door today. Like, I feel like they should check in and then maybe a blast could go out, utilizing Facebook or something. That's all.
Standardized ID tag, hopefully visible on your Ring camera, like when they show up. I got people all day.
Something, anything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That is definitely something that we can look into. We do know that the appropriate people do need to register with the police department. Of course, if you're calling the police department, we all know you do not dial 911 unless it is an emergency. But we do have the 973-398-5000 phone number. And the police do encourage you to report things like this because we have had many instances that have happened where there are people who are unscrupulous that are not doing great things to our residents here in town. And if the police know about it, they look for these people, they go back out, they warn people in neighborhoods. So it is important for you to call that 398-5000 number. And it certainly is something that we can look into.
Neil, is it possible to put on the website
Wonderful.
the listeners that are approved?
So currently, there's only one company that's allowed to have a solicitation. Do you know the company?
Trinity Solar.
Trinity Solar is the only one that has permission to be going door to door right now. So anybody else that's going door to door, I would definitely recommend calling the
Yeah,
5000
someone
number.
will ask, so they should have theirs.
Girl Scouts.
Don't call on the Girl
The comment on the door to door, they were aggressively pounding on my neighbor's door about a year ago, and it was a young girl that was home. And she called the police and the police came after them, so they do respond and they did, kind of grill. Who should have started the collection process for the sewer monies? And who will be responsible now?
The notices are sent by the tax collector's office and the tax collector's office keeps track of the payments being received.
So are we saying that they were never sent out to begin with?
As of now, the notices have not been sent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda. It's my first meeting. So happy to see so many of the town. I wanted to know about the audit and I guess where our money is going, but I wanted to make a couple comments through the meeting. There was a gentleman that had questions about when his tax rate was coming out. I work in Essex County. It's not it is delayed there as well, so it seems to be a statewide issue. I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. I do agree with the
deer issue that the other gentleman had presented. I do not know of anyone in town that is feeding, but I would like to know what ordinances or who we should call if we do see someone who is feeding. And also regarding the non-emergency line, I want to say to the town who thinks that they may call too frequently or the services are not being used correctly. However, in regards to the use of illegal fireworks, that is a very, very important line, as I was actually 3 houses down from the Tulsa Trail backyard fire that happened in June, and that was very scary. And I do call every time I hear, however, I know that it is very hard to locate where they are coming from. I do my best to direct police officers and dispatchers where I'm hearing them from in a general cardinal direction or a line of sight. I apologize, I'm not good at public speaking, but thank you very much.
I'm sorry, your name was?
Amanda Golderer, I'm on Tulsa Trail. Thank you.
Anyone else? Bernie?
You know, I don't need the microphone. Bernie Kutchka, I just got a question, a clarification of what, we're getting PlanetNet, are they coming in as an internet service provider?
So Planet Networks is a fiber optic company. They don't provide content. All right, so they're not regulated by the BPU in the same way that a cable company is regulated, because a cable company is a content provider. They have
Meaning TV.
Meaning that they stream something through the line that you watch. You buy a package, so their tariffs are regulated by the BPU. Planet Networks provides the fiber optic cable that provides internet to you. That's an internet company. They're only providing essentially the highway to get the thing in your house, and then
I
you
understand that part,
buy
but-
whatever you want.
Yeah, okay, but now my question is, are they, since you have a franchise with Optimum Cablevision, they have to go through the whole town. Once they have a franchise, they have to supply to the whole town.
Optimum does.
Yeah.
Planet Networks does not.
Does not.
Because they're not regulated by the same group, by the same way, because it's a different provider.
Okay, so some areas may get PlanetNet, some may not.
I think that's exactly what will happen until the demand builds up. In the towns they're coming through, they examine the population and who's
Well, they asked for if
who's
you're
been interested, and that's how they plan them out.
Because I know it's in, you know, we're in Northwood and I see they're going through Jefferson. And, you know, I think most of the people would like to see an alternate to Cablevision. So that's what I'm wondering. I see they're in some sections, they're in the Heights right now, I think. And, you know, that's what I'm wondering, are they gonna be, there's no requirement for them to be in the whole town?
No, not required, but in other towns, I've found that if a certain number of people call, it affects their decisions.
Well, yeah, that's what they, you know, of course, they want to make the most for their buck, so, but they've already, anybody who's interested in PlanetNet, you can go onto their site and say that you're interested in, and then they'll work that way to get to you.
Yeah.
But there's no franchise, and the same thing, so you meaning that Verizon with their DSL then is the same?
Correct,
Okay,
correct. That's the same equation.
okay.
Yep.
That's the only reason for the franchise is because they're offering basically the content of TV.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Motion to bring it back?
I'll make it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving along. Mayor's comments. I do want to thank our finance department that we have that is remaining since we have not had a CFO. They have been doing their due diligence and making everything in the borough continually function. Even though we have Joe as our new CFO, he has not been inside the borough. So I do want to say thank you to those that are helping us make sure that everybody gets paid and our bills gets paid. The 2024 tax bills, as I mentioned, we're waiting to receive the certification from the county. Once we receive that, it'll be anticipated, and a 25-day grace period is after that. That's from the date of when it's mailed. The temporary two-lane bridge for the construction on Route 15 southbound over the Rockaway River to restore traffic flow is absolutely complete. I spoke with the mayor from Jefferson yesterday. He is elated. So if you have not been over to any of those businesses, please head over there and help them because they've been struggling for a very, very long time. And we all know how difficult that is when your town starts losing all of its businesses. There was a Lake Hopatcong Commission meeting on the July 8th, and the lake was at 8.87. There was a watch alert for the Habs at the state park area. They collected 15 tons of shrink wrap, which is more than double what they collected last year from boats. I would like to welcome our new CFO, Joe. Looking forward to working with him. It's nice to have a different set of eyes. Here in Hopatcong, I've been involved with 2 CFOs. The original one when I first got involved here in '97 and the one that we just recently had leave, and now we have Joe. So I'm kind of excited about having new eyes because we had them for quite a long time. We've also received $395 from J&J vendors from the vendor market. The fountain, as Council President Hofer Camp mentioned, was turned on at the state park. Again, the anniversary of the 99th year. The interesting thing was they had the original engineer that had created that, they had his family there, and they were the first family that was allowed to turn the valve to start turning the fountain on yesterday. There was a lot of history there yesterday. If you have the opportunity to go there to see the fountain in its glory, it's beautiful to see it up and running again, absolutely beautiful. And let's see. As we all know, the fountain isn't a fountain. It's just a way that they control and measure the water that's heading out to Lake Musconetcong. That's another thing that a lot of people don't know. The Eco Cruise, which is the floating classroom, that is available every Monday and Thursday for the public. You do have to purchase to go on there, but it's a great trip if you haven't done that. It's very economical if you're looking for something to do. And it's a nice way to get out onto the lake. The concert that's in the park that Councilman Rodriguez mentioned is the 10th. We have 2 bands so far and 50 vendors that are present, and we will continue to add things to that as we go. The administrator and I had a meeting with our engineer, John Rushke, and the superintendent of schools to discuss the possibility of doing shared services for just about anything. There's nothing that's come up, but we are trying to keep that open relationship and that open dialogue with the school board. So if there's anything that the borough can help them with, or there's anything that they can help us with, we want to let everybody know, players involved, that we are all there trying to make something work. We are also doing the conversations about the lead line replacements. People who have water lines that are municipal water lines, there is lead line replacement. You're going to start hearing a lot about that soon. I keep talking about it every meeting. We only have 6 years left for those lines to be replaced. I did receive a grant earlier this year for lead line replacement. And as we get more information and we can educate the public, you'll start hearing more and more about that. I do want to remind everybody, 9/11 ceremony this year is in the evening. It's at 6 p.m. I know it's September, but the summer is going to fly by us, and all of a sudden it's going to be September 11th. So we're looking for our participation from our town. It'll take place in Fireman's Park again. The administrator and I also attended a New Jersey boat registration meeting that was at the Yacht Club on July 10th. It was extremely well attended from all of the towns around the lake. It was well attended from the state police, the Morris County Sheriff's Office, the Jefferson Police Department. One of the major issues that they're talking about this year is not Byron Cove, which is interesting for those of you from Northwood. But the weight barrels that people are making by themselves, you cannot make a barrel and put it in the lake that says no wake outside your property on the lake. The state is allowing you just one warning, and then you have 10 days. And after 10 days, if you have not removed it, they will be summoning you, and the fine is a very hefty fine. If you continue to not, after you receive the fine, if you're not going to pay that fine, they actually have another second set of fines, which I thought was really interesting. Those are very, very high. On the Clean the Lake Day, the group that was there actually collected 28,000 pounds of debris out of the lake. That's amazing, 28,000 pounds of debris. So far, the lake patrols, there's been 300 boardings of vessels. for Title 12 and Title 13. 36 of them were no PIN numbers, 37 were pollution complaints, which can also just be noise complaints, which are pollution complaints. I do want to just, I know that Councilman Rodriguez mentioned Officer Kern, but I do want to read what was sent over to us from the office because I think he deserves to have that be heard. Let me just get to that. And this came directly from Congressman Tom Kane's office. This week's MJ07 Law Enforcement Hometown Hero is Sergeant Daniel Kern of the Hopatcong Police Department. Sergeant Kern was involved in 2 life-saving incidents in the last 2 years. In 2022, Sergeant Kern assisted in removing a man from his submerged vehicle. He aided in CPR and AED to keep the patient alive until he was flown to the hospital. The second incident occurred in 2023 when Sergeant Kern helped remove a combative homeowner from a structural fire. Sergeant Kern shows up every day and goes above and beyond to help save lives. We extend our gratitude to Sergeant Kern for his hard work and dedication to keeping our community safe. Congratulations to Daniel Kern, one of the hometown heroes. Yes, he deserves that. Thank you. I do not have anything else. I hope to see everybody at Hopatcong Day on Saturday and have a wonderful evening. Motion to adjourn.
So made. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.